Hello everyone. So today we will discuss about a very interesting topic, which is about the tech product management. And people keep asking me why we deal with products that much and why we do care about bringing a product into the market. We are growth hackers after all, right? So we do marketing, which is not exactly that. Is that yes, we do marketing, but more than that, what's happening is that along the way of doing marketing, we are building more and more products. So that's why we need to know the way. And it's not only that, is that even if we're not building a product ourselves, is that we need to have the same language speaking with our clients that are actually building the products. And there are a lot of misconceptions around product management, and that's why I wanted to explain about tech product management the way that I'm explaining the clients. Also, that is a course that it's part of the courses that I delivered in NYU in Executive MBA to the students. So that's why I felt that it makes sense for you to get the same level of understanding. So thank you very much for the opportunity to present to you about tech product management, and I would be very happy to get any questions you may have directly in the comments. So let's start. So first of all, I'm Theo. I'm Chief Strategy Officer in Growth Hackers, and as I said, I'm also lecturer in NYU, and that lecture particular is part of the lecture that we did here. I am actually quite interestingly, I started as a psychologist, then I moved into computer science, then to financials, and then into an MBA. But that is just allowing me all these years to go quite deep on technical elements, but quite high on business elements. And that's exactly something that we see when we're talking about product marketing in general and product management in particular. So let's start opening up these kind of worlds around product management. Now, first of all, what we see all the time, and I believe that most of you will agree with me, even if you are growth hackers or you are building products, is that uh, what's happening is that most of the startups they just go broke learning slowly, which means that they don't have the opportunity to be very agile, and that's why they keep investing and reinvesting in building a product because they are not building the products having agility in mind. And the problem with that is that, first of all, they exhaust their financial resources. The management team also get tired. And at the end of the day, they are not succeeding. So there is an interesting statistic in the market saying that an average product, in order to be out there, it has been developed something like 2.3 times, which because of many reasons. Because at first you didn't select the correct partner. Secondly, because you didn't have the features in place. Then because the technology changed. Then because AI came. There are so many reasons why somebody is developing and redeveloping the product. But the point is that when that's happening, then you miss one important opportunity, which is to bring this product in the market. So, and that is a fact. So we need to work together with founders, with tech people, with the couple of tech engineers starting a startup to explain they need to leave space for marketing. Because I've seen in my life so many successful products that they failed, but they were great because they didn't have enough runway on marketing, because they exhausted all the resources, financially and human, into developing the product. And yes, they created something amazing, but at the end of the day, they didn't have enough budget to promote it. So don't get into that trap. It's clearly a trap. You need to move away. You need to deliver something, even if that one is not good at first, and you will fix it later on. Okay, and that's why I started with that presentation, because we need to explain people how the definitions and how they need to bring something from zero to hero. Okay, now, but let's start with the product. Let's start with the definition for product. What the product is. And when I'm asking different people, I'm getting a different definitions. And none of the people that I asked ever gave me the definition that I am giving to what is the product. So in my definition, the product is nothing more than a sequence of experiments. That's all. It's a sequence of experiments, which means that if we need to define a product, we need to define what are the elements that will actually test throughout this product. That's all. So it's not a project. It's not the same thing as a project management or technical project management. No, it's nothing more than experiments. And that's why we need to select very carefully those experiments that they will become the features of our products. Now, the most important thing here is to remember that distribution beats perfection. I told you that before, and I see that happening again and again. And I'm sure that if you are some founders among us, you have the same idea. You don't want to ship up to the moment that something is pixel perfect. And I do understand that in one hand. On the other hand, if you will not put it out there, if you will not deliver that on the field, then you will never get the insights that you need. Even if that means that it's not pixel perfect, it's fine. It's okay if that will be the case. Okay, now let's discuss about that. So first of all, a lot of people, what they do, and a lot of founders, they keep opening up the discussion that the product is not good enough, that they have a product problem, that people they don't actually activate, that product people they don't move from the free trial to the paid version. And then I'm saying, my question to that is, do you have enough distribution signals? I mean, you are telling me that you don't have enough users and people they don't move from the free version to the paid version. I get that. My question is, how many users are we talking about? Because if we're talking about 10 users, 20 users, or 30 users, these numbers are not statistically significant, which means that in order for you to get into these kind of conclusions that you have a product problem, you need to have the distribution signal. You need to see that people are coming, are joining, are creating accounts, and then you start analyzing what's happening with that in order for you to get into the conclusion that you do have a product problem. Otherwise, you don't. You have a distribution problem. And that is the problem that you need to solve first. Now, what is quite important here is to understand that it's people, you need to get the signals, because at the end of the day, you need to create the demand. You need to make sure that people, they would like to get into your product, and that they would like actually to pay for it. Okay, but that's why what we are saying here is that we shouldn't overbuild. And you know something, we keep building products. We are building Growth OS as we speak, and we keep building it again and again. And the question is, Theo, are you actually overbuilding it? The point is that we are building all the time, and maybe overbuilding, yes, but the difference is that we added users from day zero. And that's it. That's all. We know that these users, they were not very happy in the beginning because we didn't have all the features that they wanted. But still, we got them there. We keep getting feedback because we know one thing, that traction comes first and policing comes later. And that's all. Without the traction, we wouldn't have even the guts to overbuild. We wouldn't have any reason to overbuild or to build at all. But without the users getting to the platform, it makes no sense for you to keep building or just adding up features just because you believe that those users will convert. Okay, and that's something that you need to remember, that when we are getting we have a product that we keep adding features, and founders are saying that we don't have enough features, we need to keep adding features. And I'm asking them why? Why you need to ask to add features? And the answer is because we don't have, because we need to get more users. And what I'm telling them is that new features are for existing clients. New features are not something that will bring it's not a user acquisition channel. So adding features is not a user acquisition channel. It's a user retention channel. So if you have an issue with drop-offs and people leaving the platform and retention, which we will see in a while, then you need to keep adding features. But if you don't, if you should not, you should never add features just because you believe that you will acquire more users. And that's a very typical mistake that most companies do. Now, and that's why you always need to acquire attention, and before saying or stating that you have a product problem, let them start up, let them asking for the product, let them getting into the system and going beyond in creating an account, because creating an account is easy, right? Now with OAuth and all the third-party authentications, it's very easy. Creating an account is normally nothing more than just 1 or 2 clicks. But what's happening after that? Are they actually using the systems? Are they going into the first-time experience? Do they actually experience what you have prepared for them? And if you will not manage to do that, then you shouldn't keep investing. You need to make sure that sometimes that you need to keep bringing users so that you get into some safe conclusions. Now, sometimes the problem is with the quality of the users we're getting. Sometimes we see products suffering from not having engagement, not because of the number of users that they're getting, but because of the quality of the users that they're getting. Because at some point they may have addressed the wrong channels, because maybe the issue is that they have different demographics or different persona definition. Yes, all these are happening, and sometimes because of that, users are creating an account and then they don't move forward. And you believe it's a product, but sometimes it's not a product, it's the users. Or sometimes you bring, there is a misalignment between the paid ads and the actual product. And what's happening is that you bring users because of an amazing visual, because of an amazing message that you have worked a lot and crafted in a way which is very compelling and very interesting, and you bring people because of that. But then when they get into the product, they realize it's about something different, and then they just demotivated and they don't move forward. And again, it's nothing with the product. It is, in that case, the problem is the misalignment between the positioning and messaging and the product itself. So you need to make sure that if there are 2 teams working into this element, those 2 teams, they will be very in sync, making sure that we're not bringing people for the wrong reason, or that we manage the expectations in a way that they are actually getting what they came for. Now, there are some interesting things that you may do some what we call a fast test, and there is a menu for that. So the first thing that you can do is that rather than going broad, you can start with a cold emailing to a tight persona list. So for example, you go into, do you want to go for students? Then you find a particular university, you get a small list of those students, and then you do that. Or you come and you partner up with a newsletter, and then you put your product in that newsletter. That is set out of newsletters, and that is, in general, that is a great strategy, right? So newsletters like growthhackers.com, our newsletter, or so many newsletters out there with hundreds of thousands of people that in order for you to be there, it will cost you something like 50, $60. Bucks is not all, right? So, which it does make sense not to do so. Another thing is that you need to find communities or groups and you need to post there about the new product that you are building. And you can invite users just to test the product in a very genuine manner, not spamming people, which is quite common nowadays. But you may invite people saying, look, I'm building that. I want your genuine opinion. Spend some time, get into the system, and then walk through the first time experience and give me your feeling. That's all. And people that will do that because first of all, they do like testing new products. And secondly, they do appreciate a genuine demand, especially if it comes throughout the community, which is a very established but a niche community for what you want to build. And the fourth one is that you may run what we call the $100 micro ads, just to test the waters, right? You cannot just bring all the people, or you cannot get into conclusions by just ask your mom. The point is your mom will always love what you are building, but that's not the point, right? So you need to go beyond that. You need to ask people you don't know. You need to ask even out of your hometown, right? Just target another town close by or far away and ask for, go for it. Spend $100, try some ads, try some visuals, and see what the result will be. This is a quick list of what we call the fast test, so that you get the first things out. Now, and the next thing is that you need to define with yourself and your co-founders what is the definition of the success and the thresholds that you have there. For example, what is success for you? Because people, they will say, I want to make sure that all of the people that they will come into and will create an account will actually move to level 2. Okay, that's fine. If that is your definition of success, is good. But all the co-founders, you need to be very aligned. Normally, what's happening is that there are some CTR, which is the click-through rate that you need to agree upon. Then there are something like cost per lead that you need to approve on. For example, if you start the whole process and there is a misalignment because you believe that you will get every lead for $1 and your co-founders, they are okay bringing leads for $50, that's a misalignment. So you need to agree what is the number that you will consider success and what's the number that you will consider a fail. Okay, now, and these things are very important because, believe me, they're not happening all the time. So you need to make sure that you set the thresholds that you will define success. Because you know what's happening all the time is because we don't define the thresholds, we keep testing and we keep testing, assuming and hoping that something will change for the better. Because we don't have the number to say, look, we believe that is the threshold that we need to go after. We didn't get that threshold. Let's kill it. Because we don't want to kill our product. That's the point. And we try to find reasons not to kill our product. And one reason for not killing our product is actually not setting up thresholds of success. So typical thing, again, a trap, try to avoid this issue. Okay, then another thing quite important is that, and we see that because of growth hacking, and because of growth hacking, people are coming to us saying, look, I need to go to do hacking, not growth hacking. I need to go all the way. I need to tell people that wrong messages and I need to ask people to join by promising them things that I don't have, and going the dark way and finding users and sending them users without having their consents. All these things are about ethics and reputation, and you need to set those Because you cannot just succeed because you email people without having their consent. It's not the ethical thing to do. And at the end of the day, it will not even work, but you don't know that, right? So that's why you need to put some ethical standards saying that I will not go on dark patterns. I will not do clickbaits. I will not try to be too pushy in people converting. I was trying, and I'm trying all the products out there for AI lately as trainer. I want to understand what others are doing in training, and I have tested something like 10 different products in the market. Now, out of the 10, 9 of them is a pure scam. It's not scam, is what they promise and what they deliver is actually absolutely misaligned. And then when I'm getting for an account, then they try to convince me in a very strange ways to get even more and get in-app purchases and upgrade again and again in multiple screens without letting me just select and experience what I just bought. This is not ethical. This is not something that people appreciate. This is not something that will actually help your reputation in a long run. So it is the same way that you get, you see so many times that you get on a website and then the first thing that you get on a website is you get a pop-up immediately asking you for the email. And you say, but what is the point here? Do you go for long-term brand or you go for short-term clicks? Because these two things are not coming together. So if you are building a brand, you need to respect your visitors. You need to give them first to ask them later, not the other way around. So it's the rule of reciprocity. First we give and then we ask. If you respect that, the clients will also respect that. All right? If you respect the community norms, then people will also respect that. We are running one of the biggest communities in the world, right? With thousands of people. And people, they get into the system, and the first thing that they think or they assume doing is not even introduce themselves, is just posting a link, trying to get a backlink. And I'm always saying, but why people are doing that? Why they don't respect the community norms? Why they don't respect the others of the community? Because not all of us have the same ethical standards. But believe me, at the end of the day, those having the ethical standards will actually prevail. These are the people that will actually succeed. Okay, now, as we said, product is an experiment. Let's build on that. Let's explain what that means. Now, the first thing, normally when we're talking about product, the first thing that somebody is telling us is about something which is called MVP, most valuable product, right? So, and sometimes what we're saying is it's okay to run with an MVP, but if you want to be on the safe side, you need to do what we call the RAT, which is test the riskiest assumption first. Because MVP is good. MVP is giving us some features, but sometimes what we tend to do is that we need to test those things that are the easiest for us to implement, rather than those that it has the most important features for the client. So that's why what we're saying is it makes sense to start building a product by starting with the riskiest assumption first. Those that we believe they may not work, those that we believe that they are the most difficult to implement, those that we believe that if users will not see what we want them to see, they will leave. These are the riskiest assumptions. And we say start with those rather than just putting the features because you need to come up with the product. Now, the next one is that you always need to build a loop. So products are built with loops, right? So you need to build different loops because people, they will come, they will leave. You need to bring them back. They will leave again. You need to bring them back, and you need to create a viral loop around that. So, and it's always the same thing, is the loop of how to instrument something and not just collecting opinions, but analyze what's happening, what the users will actually experience, running a hypothesis for that, design something that it's a test, ship it out there, see if users are actually happy with that, and then decide if you will keep or not. That is the loop, the product loop that you need to build all the time. And products, they need to have these kind of loops, and they need to have a lot of these kind of loops. So, and we tend to forget that. We believe that users, they will use the system sequentially. It's not the case. They will never use the system sequentially. They will use it in loops. They will come, they will test something, they will leave. We need to bring them back to test again or to get their feedback on that. Okay, and then if you want to implement something like that, we need to design a checklist of our experiment and our hypothesis. Remember the definition. The definition was that product is nothing more than a set of experiments. So, and talking about experiments, there is a format for the experiments, saying that hypothesis format means if that is happening, then if that's happening, then something will change by in X percentage. And that's exactly how you build your experiments, that's how you build your hypothesis, and that's exactly how you build your product. Now, that said, in order for you to move into instrumentation of the experiments, you need to get feedback. You need to have insights, right? Which means that out of the first thing that you need to develop is actually the events, so that you understand what the users are doing inside your system. So viewing a page, starting a process, completing a process, inviting some others, activating. So you need to capture events. It's one of the first things in products. Normally, and people, they say, but these are not part of my feature list for my MVP. But the point is that if you don't add events into your MVP, then how you believe that you will be able to analyze what's happening and get into conclusions? How you will be able to run your experiments if you don't know what the users are doing inside the app? Do you know how many users and founders I keep asking if actually users, they are not activating, and that is happening because they never experienced the product, or because they didn't get to the point to activate, or because the price was too expensive? And all these are very valid questions. And you know, the answer, the most typical answer to that is, we don't know. We don't have enough information to understand if people, they don't activate because the price is too expensive, or because they didn't spend time in experimenting the product, or because they did, but they never moved into the compelling event that would make them convert. And that's the most important. If you cannot get into conclusions around that, then you're just throwing your money. And that's the first thing you need to avoid. So yes, you need to have some information first, and the first one is events, making sure that you do capture everything that's happening in the system. Second, you need to implement the funnels, and that is also part of the MVP feature list, right? So you need to understand the time from the signing up of the user up to the moment that the user is getting into the first value. And that is very important, because if, for example, you see that users are getting into the system, they create an account. As we said, creating an account is always easy, all right? Okay, so they create an account, and then they're getting into the system, a ton of features, and they get lost. They never moved into anything. They never get into the aha moment that they wanted to see, so that they start feeling good. Now, feeling good is the epitome of activation. Make them feel good as soon as possible, and then take it from there. But that's the first thing you need to understand and optimize the time in between signing up the account up to getting the first value out. Those two, they need to be as close as possible. If that could be less than 3 minutes, it's even better. And obviously you will ask me, but Theo, how is it possible to create that in less than 3 minutes? How, if we are talking about a CRM system or a different system, how that is possible? And I don't have an easy answer, but you need to make it happen. That's all. And for example, just imagine that, because all the things that we are discussing now are the things that we are dealing day in, day out in Growth Hackers building Growth OS and all the systems that we have built in the past, and some of them with very successful exits. So, and in Growth OS, for example, which is a huge system, in order for user to understand what's happening and start creating stuff, is that we need to provision all the API keys for the systems and the platforms that are needed. And if without that, then the users, they can do nothing, because they see how big the system is, but without having API keys, they're able to do nothing. And that's why we said, when we realized that, we said, that's okay. We will provision the API keys at the time that they create an account. And we will ask them to do specific things early on so that it makes sense for them to get the value as soon as possible. Okay. And the third one that you need to keep track is the cohorts. And cohorts need to be by two main sources. One is the device, the source. For example, how many times users are getting into the system. That's a great indication. If you see that people are trying to get into the system again and again, that means that they are trying to get the value. They see that they need something and they try to get the value out of it. Now, if you see that people are getting into the system again and again, when they come from a specific source, for example, Facebook or TikTok or Google Ads or organic or the newsletter or the community, that is another indication that users of quality coming from these sources is better than are better than users of a different quality. So you need to focus in there. And then the same is for activation state. For example, if you see that users are getting into the system and they just create account, is a very different activation state than users that are creating an account and they get into the point that they see the value and also that they are ready to upgrade to the next version. Yeah. Right? So the activation state together with the cohort will give us a signal of what the user is trying to do. And again, in order for you to succeed in this arena, you need just one thing, making sure that you do capture the events, the funnels, and the cohorts in order for you to jump to conclusions. And what we realized in the market is that people, they jump into conclusions not because of the things that you just see in front of you, but just because of intuition. Because they don't know, they assume, and because they assume, actually they get into conclusions because of assumptions. And you know, we say assumption is a mother of all fuck-ups. So we should never assume. And why we should never assume? Because assume, just analyze the word assume to understand. Because we believe that the users that will actually test the system is the same as we are. So assume means as you me, right? So it's like believing that the users that they will use the system are the same as us that we're building the system, which is very, very often that's not the case. For example, I'm building the system from a different angle, and I'm offering Growth OS, for example, to founders or agencies or other people that they don't have the same technical understanding and capability as the technical capability and understanding that I have. You see, so that's why I should never assume, because these people will have a different behavior than the behavior that I have when testing the system. They see things that I don't. And that's why I should never assume. Remember, assumption is a mother of all fuck-ups. So now let's see things that we can do just in a week time. Okay, so some core tactics that you may say, okay, I have a week. What can I do um, for that to happen? So first of all, the first thing that you need to do is to do what we call the fake door test. Now, the fake door test is what we call it, not what we say fake it till you make it, but is you create a waiting list, you create a coming soon page, you create something to create some anticipation. That's the idea. That is exactly the first thing that you need to do. Start with that because that will actually tell you the intent rate. Is it easy for people to give you their emails? Yes, it is. With the proper methods, with the proper aesthetics, it's easy. And you will collect emails. This does not necessarily mean that you will have a successful product, right? But at least you will have a large email list, which at some point it will be useless and irrelevant to the business at some point. But the thing here is that it will give you intent. It will give you some signals that people, what they see and the message that they see and the status that they see, they like, and they are giving you their email. And the first thing that you need to do is that you need to build a follow-up campaign, a follow-up sequence. So we are getting the email. You are in the process of building up something. Let them know. Let them know every week. Let them know how closer you are in building the thing up, in inviting users, in opening up invitations, in opening up some beta testing. Let them know that. Make them part of what you're building. Not just people waiting outside the door and the door stays closed. Give them some signals of what's happening. They need to understand that activity is happening. Now, the next thing is you need to build a landing page with one claim, one call to action, one proof, one form. You may test, if you like, 3 headlines with 2 images, split test, and then you need to put the pixels and all the events tracking from day one so that you know how many people are actually landing that landing page. Spend a small budget, bring people into that landing page, see what's happening. That's it. That's easy, right? So we have the fake door test, and then we have the landing page. That's all. That's the first thing that we need. And then we need to make sure that we can use no-code stack for our MVP. For example, we could use a Webflow, a WordPress, a Typeform, or Type if it's a form, or we could use Airtable or spreadsheets, or Zapier, Make, or Lovable for vibe coding and all this stuff. You don't need necessarily to build something that is costing you a lot, because what you are doing here is you are testing the market, right? And then you may decide to redevelop the product or to keep it that way and then start building on that, which is perfectly fine. But at some point, what you need to remember is that you need to start building into using simple tools, because in marketing and growth marketing, at some point we always had the tech founders and the marketing founders, and I believe it's now time to bring them together. And more because of AI evolving, those two they blend, they come together, they merge. The developers and the marketeers, they become together. It's now the developers, they're able to deal with distribution, and marketeers, they're able to deal with the product. So the teams here, they merge. We see that more and more. Now, and then you just need to do the $100 media plan, which is also very simple. Follow one rule. One is 70% social, Meta and TikTok, and 30% search, which is branded and the fake door that we said before in the waiting list, right? So if you see that you get a budget too expensive from a specific channel, just kill it and reallocate the budget to the winners. Because you will see out of this process that out of these $100, some of them will be just useless, and some of them, they will bring fruits. Okay, and what you need to keep as the metrics is click-through rate, cost per click, and then conversion rate, which is quite important. Conversion rate means the time that people are landing on the landing page up to the time that they will give you their email on the waiting list. Because for that point, they can do nothing more, right? It's just a waiting list. So how much time it costs you to get that email? That is what you need to do. 100 media plan, easy, right? And we have the definition here. So, and if you want to implement this playbook in 48 hours, my approach is in the morning, you create a copy of the landing page. In the afternoon, you create the creatives and the pixels in day one. Day two, in the morning, you do the launch. In the afternoon, you see what's happening and you start analyzing data, how many people are coming, and then you start debriefing, and then you need to open up the new experimentation. That's all, 48 hours. And that is exactly what all marketers need to remember, that if you are not able in 48 hours to bring that into live, into production, then you do something wrong. You need to make sure. I'm telling you here that I'm running, I say in the morning, you do the copy on the landing page. And you will ask me, Theo, how can I do in 4 hours the copy on the landing page? Well, the answer is you can. If you believe you cannot, check again, because you can. Now with AI, with all the tools building landing pages, the builders, and even vibe coding, you can bring something up in 4 hours that is very correct, is beautiful, and it has all the features you need in 4 hours. Again, if you don't know how to do that, if you even believe it's impossible for you to do that, recheck. It's not. You can do that. Now, another thing quite important is that you need to get into the viral and retention hooks. And that's why what we're saying is that the product needs to be ready for product-led growth, right? Which is nothing more than analyzing what's happening and fixing the product again and again. Now, in order for that to happen, there are a few things that you need to do. And you need to do in priority. So the first one is that you can build, and that is an assumption, that is a suggestion, that you can build an invite-only access with a visible queue. Why not? Because people are competitive. Because people, they want to see their names with asterisks, not the whole name, but they need to see themselves on top of others. And you will see how that works. And sometimes what we do is that we do something interesting. We just put the town name there. So it's not only Theo, it's Theo from London, which is very different from John in Manchester. Because it's not anymore about Theo versus John, it's about London versus Manchester. You see, people are competitive. And when it comes into towns, people are even more competitive. Okay, and then you may do that for people to unlock features or templates. Do not always offer, and that's another trap. We always offer discounts. People, they don't care that much of discounts, especially people that they are in B2B world, right? So discount is not important, but getting more features, getting some templates, getting know-how, getting knowledge that they need for their own business to get more clients, that's what you can unlock if they will start inviting others. So, and that is something that you need to keep in mind. Now, we had an example quite recently, a few years back, of a restaurant in TripAdvisor that they managed to rank from nowhere to first place. And it was a case study because they proved that you can actually manipulate the virality, and you can go viral even without having a product, let alone if you have a product. But let's see what we learn out of that. Okay, and what we learn is that by analyzing this case study, they had that was a restaurant. Actually, that was not a restaurant because it didn't exist. But they were working in appointments and lack of address and all these strange things. So they had a lot of gamification approach. And we realized that if you can build something like a gamification approach, you see that your product will go viral. The next one is exclusivity. People, they die for exclusivity. Give them something only for them, and it's easy for them for you to convince them to do something. So exclusivity, give them exclusivity based on what they're doing, and you will see that will have a lot of chance for going live. And the last one is create something which is memorable and remarkable. For example, in this case, they were having very strange photos of a food on the plate, or very strange pictures, but they were very strange. That strange that they were remarkable, that they were memorable. So these are the three things that you need to do for you to go viral. So, which is a gamified process, exclusivity, and memorability, and remarkable result. These three, if you have this in mind, you can build a viral process that will make will go viral. Now, regarding the retention and what we call from day one checklist, you remember that we said before, time to first value. You need to try to keep that less than 3 minutes. A very typical case is that when people are joining a new app, they don't see a lot of things, right? Because they need to configure the whole things. That's great. What they see all the time is empty states. And empty states are states that actually they say, you don't have that yet, create your first something. Let's assume that you are talking about a system that is doing polls. And then you get into the system, you are about to create your first poll, and the system is saying, you don't have any poll yet, create your first poll. That is a very bad empty state. This is called an empty state because it's something that's happening when you don't have your first thing. Now, create empty states with some values in order for people to understand that these are that is what will happen when it will create. A nice trick with empty states is that we get a typical thing with a lot of data in there, but blurry. So people, they get in there, they have nothing to do, they have nothing configured, obviously, but they see the full dashboard with a lot of data, but blurry. And says, if you want to create your first one, create here. And that is a very nice empty state. People, they understand what they need to do and how to move forward. So empty states and day to first value, time to first value, less than 3 minutes. This should be your goal. Go for them and you will see how that will be different, how that will make the difference. Now, the next thing is that you need to pick your one North Star metrics and the inputs that you will be collecting. Now, the North Star metric, what it makes a good North Star metric, because people, they select as a North Star metric the obvious. For example, I'm talking about a mobile app, and they select as North Star metric the downloads, which is wrong, because it's nothing more than a download reflects and delivers no value to me, because people, they will download, or even creating an account, it shouldn't be a good North Star metric. The correct North Star metric should not be a vanity metric. It should be measurable weekly, and it needs to be controllable by the team. For example, downloading a mobile app is not controllable by the team. You don't have enough data to convince people. You don't even know if they download the app, right? So that's why this is the wrong North Star metric to have. And obviously, and it will never help you to understand what is the prediction on revenue or retention if they will download the app from the App Store. So you need to have those in order for you to say, okay, that is a good North Star metric. For example, in my case, North Star metric is the moment and the number where people will get the first report. That's all. And you will ask me, you will tell me, Theo, this is quite far in the process. And I say, yes, that's okay. But that is my North Star metric, because that is not vanity, it's measurable, I control that. I can do things for that to happen earlier. And if that's happening, it's giving me a clear prediction of the revenue and the retention of the user. That's why I selected that as a North Star metric. And that's what you need to do for you to select your North Star metric. Okay, and I have some examples here. Doesn't make any difference. I will, in any case, I will send you the presentation, and you will be able to go through. You will also be able to see the video later on and replay the video if you like. So it will be part of your learning curve. So in order for you to instrument the North Star metric, you need to do what we said before. You need to build the events. You need to build the property. And you need to build the dashboard in order for you to collect things. And then you will come up with something interesting. You will tell me that you are telling us that we need to do events and we need to do cohorts and we need to do all these things. Up to now, we didn't hear about developing the features. And what I'm trying to explain is that developing the features comes next. First, you need to instrument your path to growth. And because if you have that, then building the features is easy. Most of the people, what they do is that they develop features that they are not able to measure, and then they keep redeveloping feature or changing the feature or pivoting the product just because they don't know what the users are going after. And maybe you believe that this is not the case with you, but check with your friend, check with even the stage that you are. How many times have you developed a product? For any reason. Why? How many times? And then immediately that will answer that you need to change your approach. You need to move from the features to the instrumentation first. And that is exactly the tech product management that we're talking about. Now, some things to avoid when we're selecting the North Star metrics. There is something easy that we shouldn't pick what is easy to move, okay? Or we need to have too many North Star. When the typical thing when people are asking me, Theo, what should be the North Star metric? I'm telling them, look, you need to have one. And the answer is, it's very difficult to have one. Can we have at least 3 or 4? And then that's exactly where the problem starts. Because if you have too many numbers, then the problem is that you don't know where to focus. The North Star metrics is your focus point. If that will go well, for that to go well, that means that a lot of other things have gone well. That's why you need to select one. Because that one is not the root problem, it's the definition, it's the result. Okay, people experiencing the app. Okay, people experiencing getting the first report. That means if that is my North Star metric, that means that first users, they need to sign up. Then they need to provision. Then they need to move to the page. Then they need to connect their account. Then they need to do some more stuff. You see? And then they get the first report. And that is because that is my North Star metric. All the things will happen. Just imagine that if I have 3 North Star metrics like that, it will be a nightmare because I would have to coordinate too many balls in my hands, and that would be an issue. Okay, now cohort analysis. We said that before, how often users are getting into the system. And in order to analyze that, there are only 4 ways of seeing that. And you need to agree with your co-founders and with yourself, first of all, to understand what's happening. So if you see that cohort is going down, which means that people are not getting into the system again, that means there's no interest. If you see that people are getting in a flat rate, which means without any increase in the cohort, that means that they don't get the value they want. If you see fluctuating, that means that they're learning the system. So they come, they try to do something, they leave, they come again, they leave, so they're learning the system. If you see that people are getting into the system more and more, that means you are up to something. And then you need to start building on this, and you need to expand on this. That's all. 4 ways of seeing things, and I believe everything will be very clear from that point on. Okay, now, you always need to segment by acquisition channel, because it's very different when we're talking of users coming from a $100 experiment, or if they come organically, or they come through a community, or they come through a partner, or they come because of your mom bringing her friends, right? So different thing, because if you will not compute and calculate the retention by channel, then you will jump in the wrong conclusion. And you need to make sure that people, they will actually, that you will reallocate the budget to the sticky channels. And in order for you to reallocate the budget to the sticky channels, you need to find the sticky channels. And that's why we said before that you need to have the events, and you need to have all the elements in measuring the cohorts. Now, and if you want to see what's happening with how you diagnose and prioritize fixes, then you need always to measure that. You need to do a prioritization. We call the impact confidence ease, which is the system for you to prioritize the things. So you get everything there, you create a list, and then you prioritize based on what is the impact to the user, what is the confidence that will change the behavior of the user, and what is the easiest to do. So you give a score, and then immediately you decide what are the bugs that you will need to focus on. That's the issue. Otherwise, you start only from, what you will be starting with the last one. So the last one that will get us as a bug, that's the one that you will be solving. And maybe that's not the correct one. Sometimes it's only a bug or a feature that is being asked by a potential client that they ask in order for them to sign up in the platform, which is not what you want, because sometimes these demands are not aligned with your demands. Okay? Now, it's not now the time, during this period is not now the time to experiment with pricing. Okay? It doesn't matter. It's not the pricing. People, they will never come because of the price. And you can even afford getting the first clients at the wrong price, and you can always keep them there. That's fine. Okay? Because at the end of the day, the first 20 sales endeavors will actually shape your pricing policy. Don't try to spend time in what the price should be too early. Spend the time, spend the time to bring the users, and at the end of the 20 sales, then try to see what's happening with that. And don't worry about that. There are so many revenue models, and I have a list of them. A lot of them. So I have 14 in this page, and then I have another 14 in this page. There are a lot of revenue models, and you may have more than one. So make sure you build more than one, and you will see that it's good. It's not now. It's not the time to do so. Again, remember, you can afford getting the first client in the wrong price. It's okay. Okay, don't and because those first clients will be a tiny percentage of the clients that you will have later on. Yes, they were the lucky one. That's fine. And you may keep them that. You don't even have to change that for that point. Okay. Now remember the last thing. Until someone pays you, what you have in not a product is just an idea. The moment that people will start paying what you have, then you have a product. Till then, you just have an idea. Okay, and these were the conclusions and a summary of the way that we believe that you need to see about products. So that was all. I hope you found it useful. As I said, I will be sharing with you the presentation. I will be sharing with you the video as well in our newsletter. You will get that tomorrow. And if you have more questions, please use my LinkedIn, or you can book a call with me and we can discuss your product issues or concerns or whatever you need of the product. Remember, building the product is part of the growth. It needs to be part of the growth. It's not that growth starts when product finishes. No, there is nothing worse than a product that has been exhausted all our financial and human resources without having a waiting list queuing up for for people to join and enjoy the product. So don't get into that situation. Start growing your product while developing the product. And then you will end up with a product that is ready made, and a queue of waiting list waiting to experience the product. Those two, they need to come together. Otherwise, it's very depressed for everybody. Okay, that's a trap that you can avoid. That was all. Thank you very much. Enjoy your day, enjoy your afternoon, depending on your time zone, and feel free to ask me whatever you like. Bye for now.